Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. And this is Investigator News and World News. My tree, it looks like it's like falling over now, Karen. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do something with it tonight. It looks like it's standing straight up here, so I don't know what it is on camera, but it looks like it's the Leaning Tower of Christmas trees pizza. Yeah. So and hello to Susan and Karen. And I got a great report from my source out of Israel. And he wrote a big one. And, the terror affiliates in the Gaza Strip with evident signs of indicating the beginning of the downfall. He said it could be ending soon. They continue to fight in the southern and northern parts of Gaza Strip, following a combined offensive of armored corps. This is the 401st Brigade and soldiers from Shayatet 13 and Shaldag Unit. The soldiers have taken control of the area around Palestine Square in the heart of Gaza City. He wanted me to mention those to give them a little bit of credit for what they're doing. This area, Palestine Square, is where Yahya Sinwar office is located, and as well as the government offices, property, senior Hamas officials, and a network of terror tunnels. They said their forces are based on precise intelligence and have discovered strategic underground tunnel network, which stretches from the northern part of Gaza City to the Shifa hospital area. Shifa. But that's the central command area where senior Hamas officials were also on October 7th and throughout the fighting. And in the fighting, they moved to other areas in the vicinity, using schools and churches and synagogues, anything that they knew that Israel would not bomb or blow up. They continue to expose this tunnel network and identifying significant infrastructure within. Hamas invested heavily in creating an underground Gaza, using civilians above the ground in urban areas, and in an area where colleagues in humanitarian institutions were. They invested a fortune, maybe even millions, to create an underground Gaza with a wide human shield above the ground. They said they'll expose and fight the terrorists. The terrorists emerged from the tunnels willing to basically surrender. They said they'll kill them and destroy them if they start an offense or defense of what they're doing to the tunnels. It's worth highlighting the senior Israeli security officials have pointed evident signs that indicate the beginning of the fall of the Islamic Hamas organization, and even Hezbollah starting to back off. And this is in the past few days. Dozens of Hamas terrorists have surrendered. They say almost over 100. They are laying down their weapons and turning themselves in to the Israeli soldiers. They said this will take time. The war is still ongoing. It looks like it's going to be the beginning of the end of Hamas. But don't think it's just going to end tomorrow, they said. It's going to probably just stretch through January. And they said even the Hamas terrorists are moving into the housing sections, and they're busting into homes and threatening. And they said for some reason they're banging their chests and hollering. They don't know why. And they said, and they're saying to the Hamas terrorists don't die for Sinwar. And Sinwar's their leader. Surrender now is what they're yelling to them. While the IDF remains focused on the Gaza sector, additional fronts threatening the security of the state of Israel seemingly on the rise. Now, in the north, fighter jets, tanks, artillery struck targets in Lebanon. As part of these strikes, they said they target terror infrastructures, launchers, and military compound, all belonging to Hezbollah terrorist organization. Even they're starting to see Houthi. They're starting to see ISIS. They're seeing Houthi mainly in Iraq. Additionally, the IDF forces struck terrorist squad that attempted to launch an anti-tank missile into Israel territory. Um, the chief of the general staff stated that the return to communities will be security and a sense of security in collaboration with local leadership and strengthening emergency squads for those that want to try to go back in to salvage what they can. In northern Israel, that solution to the threat from Lebanon, namely, they say the Iranian proxy Hezbollah will have to be dealt with in one way or another. And me and Williams talked about this. Just because they get rid of Hamas, Hamas will run into possible um, um, Hezbollah, Iraq, Syria, and they said even parts of Iran, and maybe even be used by the Ukrainians. Regarding the return of the communities in the south, also in the north, they said it's going to return to a very different situation. It's not the same, it doesn't look the same, and it could be hard for those to even find the streets they live on. Um, the state of Israel never adopted war as its first solution. Nevertheless, understand the situation here demands a fundamental change of reality that's very clear. They didn't, to understand that they didn't adopt the war, is they only strike when they are being striked. And over the last decades, Hamas, Hezbollah, or anything from terrorists in Gaza has fired upon Israel, and then they fire back. It's very tough calamity that occurred to them, which tells us that it's the time is right to utilize this tool in full force. In Gaza, they are utilizing military, and I would say a full force, but very powerful force, which includes impressive achievements, they say. Um, and and they thanked the United States. They spoke about this on Friday, and also they want to stand with the UN Security Council, of course, in material assistance that the U.S. is providing to the IDF. Netanyahu went on to address the rise of pressure by Western leaders who become vocal, and he says it's not meant to hurt or injure or kill civilians. It's a war with Hamas and a terror plagued Gaza Strip. It will only help those Palestinians to move back as long as they're peaceful. Um, China and France and Russia in support of a resolution to force Israel to cease fire. The United States evoked its veto power to block anti Israel resolution the United States engaged in. And this is in good faith, they say. Um, Unfortunately, nearly all of the recommendations are ignored as a result of this rush process. Was an imbalanced resolution that basically divorced Gaza, and now they have to deal with Gaza. And they said this is not a needle forward on the ground. They would not move the needle forward on the ground in any concrete way. Um, they regretfully could not support it. They could not support Hamas firing every few months dozens of rockets into Israel and Jerusalem and other places. And then that's when they would strike back. And according to what has been told to the IDF and Netanyahu, this is what they consider a holy war, and they will fight all the way to the finish until Israel is gone. So this is far from being over. Um, and I thank my friend for sending me such a really good update. Um, so, you know what got me was Ukraine is getting black market military equipment to Israel. Huh. Black market. They're military. We gave them the stuff. Now they're black marketing it out to other countries. Uh, Not a good thing. Biden throws Israel under the bus in a big way, says Israel has to change its approach and its government. Now, the defense of Obama's Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, says about Joe Biden that he's been wrong about foreign policy for 40 years. And uh, all we have to do is amend that to 50 years. And unfortunately, he's still probably wrong on everything that he has done. This is Obama's secretary. And he's saying, I think Obama's had enough with Joe Biden. When it comes to Israel Hamas war, it's predictable that Biden would get weaker in his support as the war progresses, just like he did to Ukraine, and left screaming louder about genocide in Gaza. Now, here it is officially. The guy who claimed he was 100% with Israel told donors at a Monday campaign reception that the reception seems to be the majority of the work Biden is doing these days. And Israel had to change its government and warned that support for the country's military campaign is winning the bombardment of Gaza. Joe Biden told Democrat donors Benjamin Netanyahu needs to change. This is the most conservative government in Israel's history. The government does not support a two-state solution. No, it can't. It can't. And now we have Hezbollah wanting to do a caliphate and take the state of Syria now as its own country. So this is why Israel's not going to be able to stop on at just Hamas. They have to go further and go after Hezbollah before we have to go to war in Syria next. So, boy. Um, Now, we had a missile strike a Norwegian flagged tanker in the Red Sea off Yemen, an apparent expansion of terror attacks. So, a missile suspected to have been fired by Yemen Houthi rebels slammed into a Norwegian flagged tanker. Now, this was dated today. The assault on the oil and chemical tanker Astrinda expands a campaign by Iranian backed rebels targeting ships. And it seems like they're targeting any ship that is not Iranian or part of this terror network. So it's something that I don't know if William's in, but William, this is something we might have to look into tomorrow and talk about because this is one of the main chains for not just Europe, but Israel and even over into India. So they are firing upon any ship that even goes around the Red Sea, the Hormuz Strait, and then right around Yemen into Oman. So this isn't good, folks. I was really surprised that it went after a Norwegian flag tanker in the Red Sea. So Here we go. Is this something the United States will have to deal with eventually? Yes, yes. Because you remember when we had, it was the ships of, um, oh boy, um, I can't. Any other time I can give you the names of them. We had the aircraft carrier over there, and it trapped a few of our ships over in the Hormuz Strait, and wasn't going to let them out. And then they thought for sure they were going to fire upon them. They did one, but then when the other aircraft carriers moved into the area, then they backed off. So this is an area that's going to have to be dealt with. Now, I only threw this in just because I don't like her, because I've called her office so many times. So, Sheila Jackson Lee, um, she decided she was going to be a mayor. So she gave up her seat with Congress. Now she wants it back. She said she made a mistake. And according to her running mate, she's just a big bully. And she's a bully to her own office workers. She's a bully to anybody that does not agree with her. She's a very angry woman, he said. Um, so now she wants her seat back. She wants her congressional seat. So she's going to run for it. Um, and the mayor said he's going to do everything at his will to keep her from getting that seat back. Me too. She is mean, mean, mean. And the people in her office even said so. But you could tell when I called an office she was in, whether it was the DC office or the one there where she's at, um, because they wouldn't talk bad about her. Because the same thing was up there in Chicago with Lori Lightfoot. I called the office, and when she wasn't in the office, they would tell me how horrible she was. And I think even I did Chuck Schumer the same way. But the guy with Chuck Schumer, and I'm pretty sure it was Schumer, he quit that day. He told me I was the last phone call he was going to take. He'd had it. He was a jerk. And he called him a bunch of other names and threw the F bomb in there and then said he was going to quit. So it said Schumer was horrible too. So goodbye, Sheila Jackson Lee. Yep, bye bye. And she's no Miss American Pie. She's a angry old woman that needs to retire from politics altogether. Go be with your kids, Miss Lee. Yeah. All right. Now, I think Williams even talked about this, about there's never been a state of Palestine. I keep getting emails, people saying, Palestine, it's theirs. No, no, no. So I might send this to William and we'll discuss this tomorrow, because it was Canaan, I'm sorry. And it was, or the land of Canaan. Now they didn't name it Palestine until a couple decades ago. So it's not the land of Palestine. Um, and the other thing is, um, most college students, even high school students, don't even believe the Holocaust even happened. They are taking it that the Jews are, or the Jewish people are horrible, mean people that steal and take everybody's money, and um, they they embezzle from other people, and they don't pay taxes. Boy, you should hear the stuff I get. That's not the case, folks. And they even said Anne Frank was a made up story by um, head Jewish people to make people feel sorry for them. I'm sorry, Anne Frank happened. It happened. 1 in 5 young Americans say the Holocaust was just a myth. 1 in 5. And that they say under the age of 25 believe that. And it's only because it's being taught. Only because it's being taught. Maybe if they made a go over there You know, take a field trip. Colleges, take a field trip over there and take a look, see what they did, because it's still there. Um, Now, the State Department decided to bypass Congress to send tank ammunition to Israel. And this was behind the backs of Congress and Senate. Now, this is a big no no. This isn't allowed. In the meantime, like I said earlier, we had um, Ukraine doing black market military equipment. And now we have the State Department bypasses Congress to send tank ammunition to Israel. So everybody's being sneaky. Now, how much? Now, can we find out if they're sending anything to Hamas? What's being? I have a weird feeling that Ukraine is sending Hamas stuff. I think they're just saying Israel so they don't get in too much trouble at being caught what they're doing. They shouldn't even been. Karen, tell me, they shouldn't even be sending this military equipment. We give them as aid and billions of dollars, $74 billion, and they're black marketing our stuff to other countries. I bet you it's Hamas. It's not Israel. I bet you that's what they're doing. Um, but the other thing is now Hezbollah, and I get this Hezbollah though. Now that's just Hamas. Hezbollah is claiming that they're getting equipment from black marketed through Ukraine. So, see, now why wouldn't Hamas? And why is Ukraine even doing that with the stuff we send them? It's tanks, it's guns, it's vehicles. That's why I was telling you, Ukraine is so corrupt, folks. It's so corrupt. I mean, many what Karen over about a year ago now, maybe not quite a year ago, that I was had on my show an information that how corrupt uh, Ukraine was to where when they were unloading the military equipment, trucks were just pulling up and they weren't checking to see who they were and where the military equipment was going. They just showed up. And I think this is where the black market military equipment comes from. Those trucks that were pulling up because they didn't have a system to be able to make sure that the equipment was going to the right people, the right places. Now, Zelensky, the people don't like him no more. And they have an election coming up themselves. And they said Zelensky's out. Now, get this. So, what does Zelensky do? Now, he's over here this week to, guess what? He wants to gain citizenship here. And Biden has said he will give it to him. He plans to live in Florida. And you think this should happen? And why isn't the news telling us about this? I don't know if I want Zelensky in Florida. What's he going to do? Run for governor in the 2024 election? Why are we giving him citizenship here? It shouldn't be an automatic. He comes from a very corrupt country that he never gained control of. What was he before? He became the president. He was a comedian actor. He wasn't in politics. Why do you think he failed? Er. All right, Colombia is they've legalized doses of cocaine to the people now. There's the only thing left there is corrupt. Just so they've got now Colombia. It does have China and Russia moving around and putting a port in there. Now, that might curb their corruption, but they should know. I mean, Colombia is where a lot of the cocaine comes from. So they're just going to give it to the people or they're going to sell it. They're going to legalize processing personal doses of cocaine. We found out that don't work. Legalizing drugs, even the UK said they were stupid for legalizing heroin. We were dumb for giving out needles. When are the us and other countries going to learn that you can't give drug addicts drugs because they just want more? They're going to keep using. It's not like if you give it to them, like the whole thing with California, let's give them needles because then they got clean needles and eventually they'll quit. Giving them needles doesn't make them quit. Giving them, Colombia giving its people cocaine isn't going to get them to quit. It just adds to the addiction. Now, Israel, now I did read you that report on Israel, but what I forgot to tell you is um, Israel is preparing a war against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. They have been talking about it. Bibi Netanyahu came forward and talked about it. The president of Israel came forward and has spoken about this. And they said that the war against Hezbollah they must prepare for it, they must start on it, and they must start getting the military uh, force and the military equipment to start thinking on turning its way towards uh, Lebanon. And now I told you, Ukraine, Zelensky is heading for another White House visit. He plans to visit with um, Joe Biden and Congress to try to get more aid. He needs it. Otherwise, he says he's going to lose the war. And as reported by Reuters and AP and even Russian news, is saying they're almost out of ammunition. They need more troops. Basically, they're expecting a possible peace treaty or the end of the war, and it just drops. They're never going to get back those states. They're never going to get back those or countries or states that Russia took. That's just not going to happen. So if you're thinking that Russia's going to be nice and just give them back, it's not going to happen. Those are people that are Russia, Ukrainian people that are mixed marriages, and they just want an independent state to where they can live without being crucified for being either Russia or being Ukraine or their kids being both because they're hated by Ukrainians and they're hated by Russians. And that's what happened in 2016 with the big fight that happened when we had a lot of our leaders going down there. Even the UK in 2016 uh, was moving ships that way to help Ukraine. And now we got a big mess there where it's NATO and other countries. But according to what Reuters and Russia and a few other publications are saying, we are now looking maybe at the ending of the war. I hope so. Um, now, Russia's one of the big thing they're saying is that they're going to start targeting the bigger cities like Kiev. And what they want to do is they want to increase attacks on energy infrastructures now. They said they haven't done it. They've been basically trying to destroy everything they can. But now it's time to start Kiev and taking down the infrastructure and energy infrastructure. Now, people say, why Kiev? That's so far over there. What's Russia want Kiev for? Well, one, the statue of Lenin is over there, but Chernobyl's over there. And Russia has been taking care and making sure Chernobyl's okay. They did eventually turn it over to Ukraine quite a few years ago, but now, um, towards when the war was, it was less and less, and Russia was having to go in and pull up the slack where they were not, because they said, "Oh, it's finally okay, and there's animals, and everything's fine," and they were dropping their security on it, but Russia had to step in. So Kiev, and also Russia was taking care of the people of Kiev. So at one point of time, Kiev was a part of Russia, and then Ukraine eventually obtained it. So I think he is gonna go for taking Kiev back. Um, now, throughout the Middle East, the Muslims are calling the jihad on a lot of things that's happening. And their worst nightmare, though, is when they're calling this jihad and they're going place to place, as city to city, or um, ISIS and all that. What they're finding out, more and more people in the Middle East are now armed. Even the Jewish people that live, not quite in Israel, but in other places, where if the Muslim, I shouldn't say Muslim, Islamic extremists find out, they'll barge into their house. What they're finding out is they're being met with weapons, even the kids. I mean, it's like you walk in, the whole family's got guns pointing at them, and they back out very quickly. So, to the Islamic extremist surprise, we are starting to see people in the Middle East arming themselves. They're tired of this. They're tired of being a victim. They're tired of them coming in and taking their money. They're tired of the control the Islamics have over the Middle East. And Egypt is even backing them up on this. So, wow. I think that's great. I really do think this is great. Well, I might get done early today. I'm whipping right through these. Um, Netanyahu, he stated a couple hours ago, it's the big, let's see if I could pull this up so I could quote him. It's the beginning, the end of Hamas, as even more terrorists surrender, giving vital intel. He said, so a lot of where they're going and what they're attacking and sending the IDF to is the info that's being given by those that have surrendered. Now, they said more than 100 Hamas terrorists reportedly surrendered on Saturday. And maybe they said IDF was making them making sure that they didn't have weapons or bombs on their persons. I think William talked about that. And um, they were waving white flags. It almost doesn't that kind of remind you when we went into Iraq, all the Iraqis just surrendered instantly, said they were hungry and they needed warmth. They needed definitely hungry and lack of sleep. Well, that's kind of what's going on here. But the thing is the terrorists are that handed over weapons and equipment. The men told Israeli forces that Hamas leadership is underground and it does not care about the public in Gaza and who's above ground. So they're hiding, and wherever they move the mass amounts of people and the Palestinians, Hamas does, then that's where they go underground. So they got control of the people. They hoard them over into a certain part, and then that's where all the Hamas leaders move underneath them. So that's what they've been doing, according to those that are giving the information to the IDF. So that kind of good news, and that's kind of how we learned that Hamas was their leaders and where they were. So what they're doing is um, they're bombing the underground tunnels up to that point, and then sometimes they're flooding them, and sometimes they're going in after them and they're going on both sides. So uh, they're being smart. They're being very, very smart. Okay. There is not only with kids but with pets this weird pneumonia. And I've told in the weather and lifestyle news about dogs and cats getting pneumonia. They got this cough. Well, the news in northern China with this mystery pneumonia outbreak, they said in children, and headlining in many news outlets around the world. Now, there, I think it's Virginia or West Virginia that's got this weird pneumonia now. And the Chinese authorities claim there has been no detection of an unusual pathogens or critical presentation so far, but uh, maybe known pathogens. It's not China that is dealing with increased numbers of respiratory illnesses, but now, I'm sorry, Netherlands and Denmark reportedly a sharp rise with pneumonia and whooping cough. Now, that sounds like what the dogs are having as a form of whooping cough. That's why I wanted to read this article. Now, England is noticing a brutal cold virus in adults. Now, Argentina reported a strep outbreak. Now, to me, this sounds, is everybody getting freaky or something? Because that tis the season. I mean, I talked to my doctor about it, and I said, um, if everybody started getting colds and flus and pneumonia and whooping cough and all of this, isn't that kind of normal for this time of year? And he says, oh, yeah, it's bad. Colds. He says, bad colds, like a bad cold virus. And I said, should people be going and getting the pneumonia shot? Now, his thing with me, because I asked him, do I need the pneumonia shot because of this pneumonia virus? He says, oh, no, 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 no. You're okay. Even though all my allergies that you guys hear, um, he says no. So talk to your doctor, if you have family members. Now, oh my gosh, we had just in the last 2 weeks, we had the flu, really bad flu. We had COVID, we had pneumonia, we had strep, all in one family with the grandkids. And I was like, back, back, stay away. Don't come over. Do not come over. I don't want your crud. Um, but so when I discussed this with what's going on in China, and I pulled up the article and I kind of read it to him, and he said, this just tis the season for this, and everybody shouldn't be getting all excited. Maybe it's a worst type of virus or pneumonia, but there's ways of treating it. So, um, Karen, what do you think on this? Because you got a grandbaby. Um, and if she gets a cold, easily could it turn into pneumonia or like an ear infection. That's the other thing that comes uh, most of the time with your colds is an ear infection. And so is China just playing with our emotions, playing with us being leery because of the pandemic we just went through, and just saying, hey, pneumonia, yeah, it's over here really bad. Well, it might be. It might be. if left untreated cold, and your lungs fill up very quickly, and that's the very young to the elderly will get this. You just got to be careful. If you see grandma or your mom or people old like me that that they're it don't sound good and they're cough and they're complaining about not having a hard time with their lungs, get them in there and get it checked out. Okay, onward. Um, now, the Middle East, and this is basically Egypt, and I think this is why Egypt has a hard time with Joe Biden. They're claiming that he's destabilizing the Middle East because of letting Iraq get hit, not doing nothing about it, doing nothing about Syria. I think it's in between Syria and Iraq, we've been bombed 97 times, folks, almost 100 times with I mean we are striking back but not like we should have went in and went kaboom. No, you're not going to do that. But with Biden's state of mind and being very weak, I don't think he knows what he's doing, folks. I don't want to call him a joke anymore. I just think he just has no clue. I think he can't even read a teleprompter anymore. He's all over the place. And talking about a tree that was hit with lightning and it never happened. And so now the Biden administration is considered to be, or the United States, and I looked and it doesn't even say the United States. Um, under Joe Biden is destabilizing. It says Joe Biden is destabilizing the Middle East. And it's not just them. Jordan's complaining. Israel's complaining. Kuwait. A lot of them countries over there are now starting to complain, even Africa, that what Joe Biden isn't doing is causing the destabilization and the uprise of Islamic extremists in the Middle East. And now they blame him for it. And get this, they might even, once he gets out of office, they might charge him for doing this. So he better start coughing up some names of who's telling him to do this. Will it be Obama? Will it be Soros, or will it be the World Economic Forum that he coughs up? Yeah, bad taste in that mouth. So, all right. Um, uh, now, we're starting up to see that Democrats, one by one, starting to agree with the GOP on uh, that Chinese felons, Chinese CCP, crooked CCP members, those of corruption, were giving millions. Now they said at least um, that the Chinese a felon paid Hunter $1 million for legal fees. When did he become did he become a lawyer? Is that what he paid for college with? I mean, when did he ever go to college? But he has college fees. Did he go to be a lawyer? No. That's just kind of what they have used. Um, he is used many times with many companies that him and his father has bought over there. So more and more it's coming out now with this vote for impeachments or anything right now with Joe Biden. We had a Democrat. I can't think of his name, but he went to talk to the GOP, and I thought that was great. Then I got to thinking about it. I bet you, because there's 12 to 18 um, Republicans that seem to side with the Democrats and vote with them a lot. I bet you that's who he's going to talk to. And I've said their names over and over again. I've put their faces up for you guys to see. And it's the same ones over and over and like Jenny. Jenny will side with the Democrats. If we have got a candidate that's in office and they're in our state, don't vote for them. Or you call their office and you tell them, if you're going to be a Republican, be a Republican. If you're going to vote with the Democrats all the time, then change your political party and become a Democrat. Quit being a rhino. And what's a rhino? It's those fake uh, politicians that want to play the other side for the other. I'm pretty sure there's Republicans that um, like Asa Hutchinson, but then I betcha we have Democrats that are the same way. And independents, boy, they just go either way. They go for both. So, and one person emailed me and says, "I wish we could just have a one party rule, one party only." But what that does is leads to a dictator. If we don't have the yin and yang, we end up with a dictator, and that's what the Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and others have been pushing since the 70s. Remember the 70s? We're all going to die. We're all going to die in 8 years, is what Bernie Sanders said in the 70s. And then we moved into the 80s. And what did he say? Yeah, climate change. We're all going to die. We're all going to die in 8 years. It never happened. And then the 90s, all the way through the 2000, 2010, and and then 13, and we're all going to die. In 2013, we were all going to die in 8 years. Well, we passed that mark. What did they say? Oh, it's 2030 now. Even AOC said, "Oops, we got to move it." And the little girl that pushes climate change, I call her the ugly girl. Not because she's ugly on the inside, folks. Not picking on her. She said the same thing. It didn't happen. I thought it was going to happen. Oh, okay. Well, now they're saying 2030 because we've slowed it because of the Green New Deal. Slowed it down, so it's going to happen in 2030. Why scare the hell out of our kids like that? Uh, Now, China's accused a political prisoner. What they do is, the re-education camp. Well, there's a part of them that those that they have abused so badly, they can't never let them out. Well, they're doing live organ harvesting again. Now, what's live organ harvesting? They keep them they're alive. It's not doing it when they're dead. They're doing it while they're alive, and sometimes they're even awake. So now he is accused of political prisoner live organ harvesting and hosts an organ donation summit. So uh, his own people, if they want a lot of money, guess what? They can uh, they can kindly give. They held two events on organ donation tied to its predatory Belt and Road Initiative. And this weekend to boast of its alleged advancements in organ transplant access and cut deals with Central Asian nations on medical training on how to do this. Oh, this is sick stuff. It's on YouTube, folks. You just got to go check it out. I could talk about it, but it just gets very graphic, very gross, very uh, evil, just out and out evil of what they do. And they even do it to kids. That's the thing. It don't matter how old you are. It's the body part that's needed from all over the rest of the world, the United States. Those hard to get body parts. Yeah, they got them. They got them for a price. For a price. Wow. Okay, folks, that is it for today. And I hope you enjoyed the news. I hope you learned something because here at Investigator News, we give you news that they don't normally do on our regular news stations. Uh, the media is just so into the polls. Okay, you want to hear about the polls? Well, Trump 50, Biden 40. And his approval rating 31%, and that's among Democrats. They're losing the black vote. They lost Latino and the Chicano, and most of the Mexicans are now saying no. Even the illegals that he thought he would buy, no, even them. They're starting to see what Joe Biden's all about, and they said he's the president. Somebody needs to like retire him. He can't even walk. He's lost. When will we find him in the broom closet like we found Dianne Feinstein? Hmm. So, does it mean anything? Well, folks, didn't we get snookered on the last election when the polls were high and we were expecting a grand slam and we were going to get this? And oh, no, we didn't. The polls shut down, and the following morning we found out millions of votes came in all of a sudden just for Biden. No Trump votes in there. And then all of the what we've been seeing in the courts, the Supreme Courts, of bad voting machines and those that were crooked, even some that ran counting. The one person in that back office that's given the power to count. Yep, they even were bought and paid for by who? Well, you know who I think. All right, folks, subscribe and hit the like button. Do the thumbs up and share, share, share. 'Tis the season to share with family members and friends. And with that, I will see everyone tomorrow. Me and William with the World War III report. And if not, come on back and watch our weather and lifestyle news. And even if friends and family, no, I'm not into the big news thing. Say, come watch Ellie's weather and lifestyle news. If the hard news isn't your cup of tea, maybe your cup of milk will be the weather and lifestyle news. All right, folks, have a wonderful Tuesday, and we will see you all tomorrow. And God bless.